Body shot, ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another installment of the Bloody Water Podcast. My name is Derick G, and I am your host, and let this be your greeting for the next 90 minutes or so. Folks, Colby Covington, he got the job done. A lot of people didn't want to see it, but hate it, love it, or somewhere in between. The man is a mauler, and he is dominating people wrestling style. We have a lot to talk about today. Before we get into anything, let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber, AJ, brother. What's happening, my man? 4-1 apiece on UFC 272's main card, so it was a wash. It was a tie. But the one thing that I am pretty proud of, and I do want to definitely mention, is look at those records, brother. 26-16 for me, 29-13 for me. We basically are doing a little check-in, right? A little benchmark every single week. But the beautiful part about it is that we're starting to look like how we were looking at towards the end of last year, man. Real good. How are you feeling, my man? What's life looking like on the other side for you?
Feeling good, Derick. You know what I like a lot about these numbers? There's even a couple different picks that we like to choose where we didn't go exactly on the same side, but we still rocking 4-1. So even though sometimes we miss that one pick, you know, the other side of that camera right there, folks, that we're beyond spot on over here. Yeah. No, feeling good, brother. I went and checked out a little bit of rugby action going on. Austin, nice. The cool part about Austin is always some cool shit happening. Yeah. It's nice to live in a city that you can get that going. But other than that, brother, feeling nice. Sasha Bear's doing well. You always got to check in with the pup. How you living, brother?
I'm living good. First, brother, talk to me about this rugby first. I need to know. I need some information right here, my man. So you went and checked out some rugby, right? We had an old friend. Shout out to the homie Joe, right? He was real into the rugby. He used to try to put me on. But what was the action like in comparison to some football, some NFL or whatnot, man? Was it just as exciting? Were we, you know what I mean, on the cuff? What are we thinking?
Yeah, pretty. I mean, so what was nice? One of my homies out here, Lydia. Shout out Lydia. She hit me up with some free tickets. Oh. So drinks, food, little buffet, little section, little like VIP section. It was nice. Crowd was a little tame. Not too many people. It was deep in Austin. It was a little far out. So, I got you. But I mean, what was nice is the people that were there. They were intense, you know. They were living it. They I was talking to this cat next to me. He goes to every single rugby game, whether it's the All Blacks that are out of here, Austin, the AGs, which was last night, or like the Hawks or the Hopes or something like that as well. I'm not too big on the rugby scene. I won't lie to you. It was funny though because I was also watching the fights as the game was ending. Luckily, it was just the prelims too. So I was just sitting there, the one guy watching his phone while the thing was going on. But it was still a fun time, man. And it was good to see some live action too, especially when the fights were down. I'd be able to watch a little bit. It was a good time.
Awesome, man. I always just wonder what's happening on that side of Austin. You feel me? They say it's very much like Portland. That's where we came from, man. So I was just wondering what it's looking like. Is that what for those who are watching? Is that the shirt that you're rocking right now? Is that a rugby shirt or not?
Nah, brother. This is college. This is intramural. This is college. But you're right, Derick. Austin is actually very close to Portland. They even people over here say they're sister cities. Yeah. It's up for debate where the keep whoever weird started, keep Portland weird, keep Austin weird. But there's some serious correlation between the two, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely, brother. So, great getting to know that we doing all good over here. Once again, I am doing well. I caught the fights last night in its totality. I love it, man. Did I pay $75? Hell the fuck no. But I did find myself the availability to watch these, you know what I mean? And get a good night of entertainment going. So I think that's what's cool over there. Let's talk some stats, brother. Let's get straight into the joints, man. Fight of the night for UFC 272. Covington versus Masvidal. Deserving? I don't know. I think even the one-sided RDA versus Moicano fight was a little more deserving of fight of the night than this, but we'll talk about that in a second. Performance of the night. Kevin Holland, he notches a performance of the night $50K bonus in his UFC welterweight debut. Now, let's not forget, he has fought at welterweight before. This was back in 2016 or so, outside of the UFC, clearly. Maryna Moroz, though, brother. We needed to talk about it. Not only does she end her grudge match with Mariya Agapova, very one-sided fashion, man. She put one on not only for herself, but for the country of Ukraine, which let's send out all the, you know what I mean, positive energy and all that good stuff to Ukraine and all that good stuff. This is not a political show, but we do know when any people are suffering, it's nice to get one on the board for them. And Maryna Moroz absolutely did that. And she got a little $50K bonus, which not only will she be able to help herself, but she got a lot of family out there in Ukraine still. So that's just a feel-good moment. You definitely love to see it. 5 finishes in 13 bouts, AJ. 3 knockouts, 2 submissions. This was a very decision-heavy card, but it was still pretty entertaining. And then 4 upsets, brother. Ludovit Klein, Tim Elliott, That was a big one. Maryna Moroz, Nick Negamedianu, which is very controversial. We'll talk about that in one last second. And lastly, I already said 4-1 on the day for us, right? But you edged me out one more time, AJ. 3-1 on the over and unders. You got the job done. I was 2-2. Folks, by the time that we put our over and unders in on the preview show last week, there were no over and under for the Dos Anjos Moicano fight because it was last notice. So with all of that being said, my man, which one of those stands out to you the most? Is it the performance of the night bonuses? Is it the upsets? Is it the fight of the night? Like, what stood out to you on the eye test for this card?
Man, one of my favorite fights of all the night was Kevin Holland's, but I also really like the Moroz fight, man. Yeah. That Maryna Moroz, there was a lot of heat behind it, the storyline behind it. You could even tell she was very humble. We were shooting texts back and forth, and she grabbed the mic from Joe Rogan and said, "I'm sorry," wants to give it back. You could tell she was just living her moment, man. I really like that fight, but also, I mean, you can't go wrong with Big Mouth over there. Again, looking sharp in that second round, coming back, looking a little slower. We'll debate that here in a second. But I like both of those fights, man. What one stood out most to you?
Well, you know what? That Kevin Holland fight definitely told me, or it proved a lesson to me. It showed me a lesson. It taught me something, I guess I should say, that you shouldn't be underestimating these people. And the back against the wall isn't always the greatest predicator, right, for, you know, notching a victory. Like, Kevin Holland clearly was the better man in that fight, like from start to end, but Oliveira had his moments. He's an old wily vet, man. You can't count him out, but now he has lost 4 in a row. The majority of his last 12 at this point, right? So the Kevin Holland fight was I love to see it when Oliveira had his back for 10 seconds left and Kevin Holland just give him the thumbs up. He's like, "Bro, I'm good." And I've been there before where somebody doesn't really have that choke on you and you're like, "Bro, whatever, I'm good. Don't even sweat it." But yeah, that was very interesting. I love to say Jalen Turner, which is somebody that we're going to be talking about in just one moment after we do the photo collection here. The man is on a rampage. The man is killing his division, and at this point, they need to give him a step up in competition. For real, Jamie Mullarkey don't get me wrong, but he beat the brakes off of Jamie Mullarkey all around the ring for the course of 1.5 rounds. I think we need to see real deal competition close to that top 15 next. So with that being said, AJ, let me just give the people the notice. Folks, drop a like, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts at. We're at almost 350 subscribers, folks, so we love it. We appreciate it. Keep commenting. We keep replying, and let's keep growing bigger and better, folks. You know what time it is. But without any further ado, AJ, if you don't mind, let's get into a little photo collection, yeah?
Let's do it, brother. Let's do it.
All right, cool. All right, my man. So this is gonna be a very short and sweet photo collection this week because we didn't have too many really great photos, and I have a lot of photos that are incorporated in the main card that when we're gonna talk about that, but. Umar Nurmagomedov, brother. This one, you had said, you're like, "Hey, man, I almost made this my sleeper because, you know, Brian Kelleher, he brings the boom. He's fighting Umar. This is going to be a banger." Not much of a banger, man. This was one-sided, and I did want to give the notice. This was after Khabib and Tamir Ulanbekov lost against Tim Elliott, which is pretty controversial. A lot of people had Ulanbekov winning that fight. So I was tweeting out, you know, because it's called MMA Twitter. It's a little community on Twitter. People just talk about the fights all day long while it's happening, right? One thing that was funny was that I was like, "Listen, man, I predict Umar Nurmagomedov is going to come out here and get a real quick stoppage on Brian Kelleher in violent fashion. He's got to get one back for Coach Khabib, excuse me." And he did, man. He got up on him, got the rear naked choke. It was done in a matter of moments, man. So you got to feel for Brian Kelleher, but Umar Nurmagomedov is looking like the real deal so far, brother. What do you think about this photo?
Nice photo. You can tell he really wanted the win, getting that rear naked choke submission. And what I like most about Umar is, yeah, sure, you know, he carries that Nurmagomedov surname, so he's rolling on the ground. He has some serious pressure whenever he's getting that in. But those kicks, man, they're snappy, they're fast. You don't know which way it's coming. Brian Kelleher got caught up in a couple of them, and that's what led to this takedown on the ground, man. Vicious attack all around, and you're right. They needed one back for Coach Khabib, and I'm glad they got it because Umar Nurmagomedov is a force to be reckoned with coming up in the future, man. Taking out killers like Brian Kelleher, only deem well for the future that's coming for him.
Yeah, and let's not forget, my man, I'm just going to pull it up real fast. I guess I should have made this part of the news and notes or part of the bigger situation, but Khabib Nurmagomedov, he has officially been announced as a 2022 Hall of Famer inductee, man, in the modern era wing at UFC 272. The man ended his career at 29-0 in MMA, 13-0 in the UFC with 3 title defenses, brother. So he went 1-1 on the night, controversial 1-1, but he did get a Hall of Fame induction, my man. Quick question. This is probably one of the quicker Hall of Fame inductions that we've seen in recent history in the UFC. I'm not going to say it's not deserved. That's Khabib. He's a mauler, right? But what are you thinking, my man? Do you think that the hype of Khabib and the overall just like praise of him and how much people love him right now was a factor of him becoming a UFC Hall of Fame inductee? Or do you think that it was something different? Because I went to the last year's UFC Hall of Fame induction, I guess that's what you call it, right? And we had like Kevin Randleman, who barely got inducted to the Hall of Fame. That's like a former champion, Kevin Randleman, OG of the game, right? So what do you think, man?
Man, I think when you're on Uncle Dana's good side, it shines very, very well. I think he has a lot of sway in there, and also when you're on his bad side, it shines very poorly for you. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Khabib deserved the induction 100%. He's a mauler. He's one of the names that brought a lot of people to the sport, as well as a lot of that side of Russia, man. When Khabib made his entrance, he opened the gate for a lot of the other Russians to come in. So it makes sense to me, but it's very quick. And it adds a little strife to the conversation, I guess is the best way to put it, because there's a lot of people out there who haven't really had that opportunity yet, haven't been inducted, but done a lot of greatness out there. So I think it's a little early. Yeah, deserved. Yes, 100%. So it's just interesting to see why and how fast he made it to there. Because on the visuals, Khabib gets a lot of play, man, a lot of leeway that a lot of other fighters don't really get. So it's interesting to see. And like I said, it must just be he's homies with Uncle Dana. You see him sitting cage side all the time. When Uncle Dana, you scratch his back, he does a lot of favors for you. So it's a good call. And yeah, ironically, with I forget if they're cousins or not, but Islam, you don't scratch Uncle Dana's back. You get the bull end of that whip right there.
Yeah, so they're not cousins, but they're like homies that grew up that called themselves cousins. That type of stuff, right? But that was a good point that you made about being on Uncle Dana's good side, because when you are, good things do happen. And another good thing happened at UFC 272. Bryce Mitchell, Thug Nasty, right? We're going to talk about him in a second. Domination win over Edson Barboza. But he had announced after the fight, hey, folks, I'm donating half of my fight purse to an Arkansas hospital for children with medical conditions, right? So this was a beautiful thing. You'd love to see it. He was really putting on. He was a little spiritual, right? But he was putting on. He was hyped up after a big win. Well, what happens? Dana White says, I love what you just did, and keep that $45K. Keep that half of your purse. I'm going to donate the $45K to the Children's Hospital. So not only did he get his one-of-one camo shorts, which no other fighter is able to wear on the roster, but also, man, he got the charity that he wanted to, or the hospital. He got the donation that he needed from Uncle Dana and got to keep his money, brother. So you'd love to see it. So any thoughts on that?
Oh man, yeah, I love that, bro. Like it's I'll save the big take for later, but man, this is one of those things that fighting is so much more than just throwing your hands in the cage. And I love the fact that the second Bryce Mitchell got his opportunity to speak, he made it about bigger than him, man. I love this so much. This is what you want to see, especially on a card that has a lot of the turmoil and the bad stuff and all the shit talk that some fighters don't like. It does draw a crowd, but I'm glad that there's this opportunity for this as well.
Yeah, man. And Thug Nasty did get into some heat after some controversial things that he had been saying. Not too controversial personally, because I hear it all the time, you know what I mean, in this neck of the woods. But like I said, I think he made up for it after that, man. So we'll move on to the next photo right here. This is just Maryna Moroz, and look at the face. Look at the look of jubilation. And we're kind of blocking it because our screen is right there, but Mariya Agapova is sitting there in disbelief. And this is one of those things, AJ, where this is similar to the Colby Masvidal fight, where it's just like, you was talking all that shit. Like, you was talking so much smack. And then you were sitting there, not only, this was worse actually, because she got finished in domination style, right? She had her moments, but Maryna Moroz was clearly the better grappler. I think we all kind of saw it coming, but Maryna Moroz has been much more inactive than Agapova has recently. And Agapova was talking tough, man, so put that heat on it. What do you make of the photo, brother?
Man, this is one of those ones that Agapova puts on the accountability mirror right there. Because look at her in the back. Like, your opponent is already 5 steps away from you. All that energy, looking happy, smiling, standing up, big and proud, and you're still hands on the ground, sitting there in disgust, in defeat, just pissed off, looking down at the ground. Good picture. But like I said, this is one of the ones that Agapova puts on the accountability mirror right there.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Here we got Yan Xiaonan landing a crispy left hand to the chin of a Maryna Rodriguez. Brother, this was a controversial fight. This should have been on the main card, honestly. This was much better than the Spivac-Hardy fight overall, in its totality, I guess I should say. But ultimately, man, even though it was a close fight, and I want to talk about that much more. I do think that it wasn't one of those robbery reports that you're going to call out. It was a close fight. It could have gone 2-1 either way, depending on how you were viewing it, what you like to see out of a fighter. But Maryna Rodriguez, brother, this is quietly, let's see, a 4-fight win streak. She's 6-1-2 in the UFC, man, and she's got wins over names like Amanda Hebos, Mackenzie Dern, Yan Xiaonan, you know what I mean? Like, with those names, man, she's basically saying, hey, winner of Esparza versus Namajunas, I want to fight you next. I'm ready. And when she said that, I was like, well, you like barely kind of beat Yan Xiaonan. So like, are you ready? You know, that's my girl, Maryna Rodriguez. I've been showing her a lot of love. But I think if she fights Carla Esparza again, I don't see how the same thing wouldn't happen, where it was a close fight. It was a split decision that she lost against Carla Esparza. But the wrestling, brother, if you got taken down by Yan Xiaonan, you don't think you'd be taken down by Namajunas or taken down by Esparza? I don't know, brother. Give me a take on the photo and let's talk about the whole situation.
Man, I love that. This is a crispy left hand from Yan Xiaonan, turning Maryna Rodriguez into a who from Dr. Seuss out here. It's right on the chin, just like you like to see it, man. Good fight. We were talking earlier, Derick. I need to rewatch this in depth because I had Yan Xiaonan winning. We'll get to the, or actually no, it's not on the main card, so I can give a little breakdown on this one right now. It's just interesting what you want to see because we were talking about it when the mics were cold. Sometimes they go with the eye test, you know. Sometimes the judges, they see what everybody sees, and the winner goes to what everybody thought. But this one, I thought Yan Xiaonan went, and then I looked at verdict. Everybody on verdict had it going the other way. Had it going for Maryna Rodriguez. So I really want to watch this one again, kind of in depth, to see where even my own biases lie and what I was looking for. Because I thought Yan Xiaonan was looking crispy on the feet, man, having that forward pressure the entire time. Maryna Rodriguez looking a little slow, especially on the back foot. It's what do they want to see? Sometimes I guess the takedowns don't matter. Who knows? What do you think, Derick? What was your big takeaway from this one?
Well, I'd have to say that I agree with you. I have to watch it back again because I could have been a little biased, man. I thought Yan was just doing a little bit of the better work. She was a little sharper, a little faster, and she was making Maryna Rodriguez miss a lot. So Rodriguez was throwing. She was putting pressure on. She was missing a lot. However, let's take a look at the numbers, brother. So first, we'll look at the MMA decisions. And this is basically how they had it split, brother. It's so close. Look at that. That's literally like 50-50 right there between Xiaonan and Rodriguez. When it comes down to the judges, it was, let me see, Michael Bell and Ron McCarthy gave it 29-28 for Rodriguez. Derek Cleary gave it 28-29 in favor of Xiaonan. So it's tough, my man. I really don't even know what to say about those numbers, but when we look at the actual statistics, this is surprising. So Maryna Rodriguez lands 72 of 200 significant strikes. Yan Xiaonan lands 56 of 132. So it's like she was the busier fighter in Rodriguez, and Yan was the one missing. I just don't really necessarily know what to make of it because I feel like that's not what I watched. You know what I mean? Like the numbers don't feel like that's what I watched. However, 2 of 4 takedowns, and that's the thing that I'm wondering. I'm like, are the judges considering these takedowns in there? Yeah, did she do a lot of damage? No, not necessarily, but they count for something, right? They don't count for nothing. She had 1 minute and 33 seconds of control time. I don't know, brother. It does look like clearly Maryna Rodriguez, she just gets better as the fight goes on, and that was the key thing. I think that she just stole that third round clearly. The body language of Yan Xiaonan looked bad, and this is very similar. And I don't want to compare apples to oranges, brother, but this was something that we were saying when the mics were cold, where I said this is like the Cachoeira versus Ji Young Kim fight, man, where it's like, yeah, Kim won the fight, but Cachoeira passed the eye test, so she got the nod. Was it the right choice? Nah, I don't know. It's debatable. A lot of people say, hell no, robbery. This one is not a robbery right here. Rodriguez got the win. She was better over the course of 3 rounds. But I guess I just feel bad for Yan Xiaonan. I think that's really where I'm at right here, man, because this is 2 losses in a row, right? Let's not forget. Her first loss to Esparza just happened, and then she loses to Rodriguez. She was number 4. We'll see where she goes. This is a stacked top 10, though, man, so you definitely know she'll be back. But, yeah, I guess that's what I have to say on it. Anything else on that one, brother?
Very stacked top 10, and I agree with you, Derick. I don't think Rodriguez is ready for the ground game, man, of Rose Namajunas, as far as anyone in the top, 3, 4, 5 that really has that tough ground game. You get picked apart and taken down by Yan Xiaonan like that, it's going to be a long night fighting Rose Namajunas out there.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So last photo that I got right here, man, and we're blocking a little bit, but this is just Hamzat and Darren Till, man, best friends, I guess, now. And that's the beauty of the situation right there. So with this being said, my man, and now that Hamzat has kind of taken Till under his wing, do you expect a career resurgence for Darren Till when he comes back in I believe he's like a bona fide middleweight now. He started his career at welterweight. Do you think there's a comeback season for him?
100%, Derek. I've been watching Boars on the Boars channel, brother.
Yeah.
I've been watching them training, sparring. This is one of the bromances in fighting that I love to see because iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel, whatever you say. Darren Till's going to come back even better than before, man. It's fighting with a savage and not only learning the skills that Hamza possesses, but learning the motivation and the drive that he has, because Hamza's from a very rough area and a very rough upbringing. And Till's one of my favorite fighters, but he just didn't have it for some reason, man. The mental game of Till just wasn't there. And now with them two together, the skills training, bro, I am so excited to see the next fight for both these dudes. Hamza versus Gilbert Burns. I forget who Till's fighting, but either way, I'm excited to see him get in there and scrap. I think this is going to be one of the ones where we look back and like, oh, that more people should be doing that. You see somebody you want to train with, pair up, lose the ego, get in the cage, fight it out a little bit. They're talking shit. If you don't go and if you haven't seen any of their episodes, man, go check them out. It's all over YouTube. That there's Mac Live producing it. There's Hamza doing his own thing on the channel. But it's they're talking shit to each other. They're sparring. They're getting some good rounds in, man. I'm very excited for Till to come back and fight. And we get to see the funny side of Hamza, man. We get to see a personality bring out. It's really cool.
No, absolutely, man. I just think that, listen, iron sharpens iron, is definitely the right statement to use when we're talking about it. But I want to see an elevated ground game of a Darren Till at this point, my man. So if that's what Boris is bringing to him, man, you love to see it. Darren Till on the feet is a very, very scary and dangerous man. So that's even better for Hamzat too, man. So there's a lot of hype on Hamzat. We'll see what happens. It did get announced. Him versus Gilbert Burns is official. So we will see what happens. But AJ, man, we need to talk about something that's a little more serious right now. And we were saying how close fight here, close fight there, right? I think we got a robbery report on our hands, brother, and I feel bad because I picked this man to win, and he won, but due to unjust causes, and I'm a man who's willing to admit that, right? I got one on the board. This is similar to the Cachoeira fight. Brother, we're taking a look right here, and what I'm looking at is this is the Nick Negumereanu versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. Apologies, I just pulled a Joe Rogan right there. And Nzechukwu, I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. Am I kind of close on that one, AJ?
Man, I was butchering. I was trying to explain this fight to one of the guys next to me. And Nzechukwu, I butcher it all the time, so I'm sorry.
Either way, my man. Listen, look at what these numbers show. Sal Diamato scores it 27-29 in Nzechukwu. Tony Weeks scores it 29-27 for Negumereanu, and Doug Crosby scores it 29-27 for Negumereanu. Now, the problem in this is that when we look at numbers, AJ, it shows that Negumereanu was outstruck 95-64, and he only scored one takedown on 5 attempts, right? So those numbers are not very good at all. But when we go back to the MMA decisions, everybody has it either as a draw or as a win for Nzechukwu, except for one dude, Ben Duffy from SureDog.com, who scores at 29-27 for Negumereanu. Now, the highlight of this, right, the big picture to take away is that a point was deducted from Kennedy, right, Nzechukwu, right? A point was deducted from him from eye pokes, multiple eye pokes. Good. We don't want people cheating. And we'll talk about another prelim right after this where there's some cheating involved. And they actually was like, yeah, I cheated. Yeah, ref didn't do shit, so what are you going to say? Anyways, that didn't happen in this fight. But so the problem that I have here is that nobody saw this going in favor of Negumereanu for the most part. How does this happen? That's my question. How can you see somebody get outstruck over the course of 3 rounds and still give them a win 29-20? I don't know, man. This is clear robbery report. Kennedy was using his length, his range, and he was just kind of picking Negumereanu apart all day long. What do you make of this situation? And just give me your thoughts on the big picture of when you rob somebody of half of their fight purse, right? In a situation like this where this is like clear corruption, boxing style, shouldn't there not be repercussions? I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this, but should there not be repercussions? What do you think?
It's crazy that we talk about this basically week in and week out and nothing the change is so far. Like some weeks, they're counting the takedowns. Other weeks they're not. Sometimes they're counting the pressure. Sometimes they're not. And it's rough because the point you said, Derick, you're stealing half of somebody's money, half of the food that was going to go to his mouth, his wife, his kids, even if they don't have kids, to his own mouth, to his dogs, whatever the case may be. Man, it's frustrating, and I can only imagine how frustrating it is for the fighters to go and say, because I had Ncheku winning that fight as well, or at least going to a draw. Because you're right, the eye pokes, yeah, sure, you take that point, cool, I get it. But and Kennedy was bloodying up Nurmagomedov, man. He busted up in the nose, controlling him, working from the outside. He was doing everything nice, man, especially stuff in the takedowns. Stuff in those 4 takedowns should count for a lot. Maybe not as much as an actual takedown, but should count for something. Man, this is I do feel like we're beating a dead horse, because it's sure enough robbery, almost as plain as day, man. The only thing they're missing is some bandanas and a 6-shooter, brother. This is a robbery all day long. I don't know how it happens. That's the bad part. It's like, I don't know how it happens. I don't know how you fix it. I think the judges need to have some accountability, or have some of their purse taken, like if it's so blatant that everybody in the media, everybody on verdict, everybody in the world is seeing it one way or another, take the judges half purse,
Yeah, I feel like you should at least something like this should happen where it's like you're put on probation. Like, I'm putting you on like a 6-month probation to where something has to be done, man. You need to go take some classes. You need to go rewatch some fights. I don't know. Believe it or not, Sal D'Amato was the one who got the correct call on this one, and he's kind of notorious for having some weird split decisions. So, listen, a win is a win, I guess, in that book, right? AJ, brother, let's talk about another big one. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Tim Elliott, right? There was shorts being grabbed. There was gloves being grabbed. There was just kind of dirtiness, you know what I mean? Kicked in the nuts, all the whole nine. Everything was happening in this one. This was a very scrappy fight. And Elliott was being awkward. First round, definitely his. Rounds 2 and 3, a lot of people thought Ulanbekov kind of stole those. Some takedown attempts, all that good stuff. Elliott, he had a lot of takedown attempts in his own right. And when I look at the MMA decisions, let's take a look. And it sucks that I have to pull this up so often, to be honest with you. But let's see what it's looking like. So I'm going to move us on over right here. For folks who are just listening, we will describe it. Yeah, man, it looks like for the most part, people got it in favor of Ulanbekov as opposed to Tim Elliott right here, my man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes for Elliott, and over like 10 for Ulanbekov at this point, my man. 29, 28 in favor of him. So a lot of people just, thought it was not the right call. But Tim Elliott, he did say something. They asked him, like, hey, did you grab Ulanbekov's glove? And he was like, yeah, I did. Ref didn't do shit about it, so what's up? And at this point, we've saw it, man, where in this fight card, it was prevailing, where you get away with 3, 4, 5 blatant fouls before the referee does anything. Look at the Colby Covington versus Masvidal fight. Colby was kneeing him in the nuts, right? He was holding on to his shorts. He was doing all types of little weird, dirty shit. And then all you get is a little, hey, stop that, right? That's not enough. You know what I mean? That's not enough. And I'm not a fan of like one infraction, you immediately take a point. Like, don't do that. But come on, brother. However, let's talk about the other side of the equation. Do you think that was a veteran, scrappy game plan by Tim Elliott right there?
It goes both ways, doesn't it, man? I'm glad you brought up the Colby fight, because there's so many fights going on that, like, all right, sure, one ref calls it one way, the other ref calls it another way. He's being stern, giving you stern warnings. Don't do that again. Like, okay, I've done it 5 times already. What you gonna do, And is it a scrappy veteran play? Yeah, 100%. Like those are the kind of little tips and tricks you learn, the things that you can get away with. The ref's not going to call it. I'm going to hold that glove all night. I'm going to pull the shorts. I'm going to get the advantage I can until you take something from me that I'm like, take a point where I'm like, no, okay, now I got to actually like watch and do this. It's hard, because this one definitely falls on the ref. I feel like I agree with you, Derick. I don't think one time you grab those shorts, you're getting a point taken. Nah, it's too serious. But you do that twice, 100%. Take that point all day.
So what do you think about this saying right here? And I don't remember where I heard it, so I apologize for whoever was the source of this. But they said something along the lines of, a baby who doesn't cry doesn't get fed. Like, a baby who doesn't cry doesn't get milk. And they're saying that Ulanbekov should have been making a bigger deal out of the infractions of Tim Elliott. Now, you don't want to be a crybaby when you're fighting, right? Take it like a man and just fight. Like, it is what it is. Let the referee do his job. And if he's not going to do it, well, then inflict some damage on your opponent to make him stop doing whatever they're doing. But at the same time, this did cost him a win. It cost Coach Habib a win right there. At the end of the day, a lot of people thought Ulanbekov won, but since he didn't make a big enough fuss, Elliott never got basically anything happening. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, we could have had a fence grab too that prevented a takedown or something along those lines. So give me your take, brother. What do you think?
Man, pulling out all the tricks in the book. There was every at least non-egregious foul that could have been happening. I think if you're in there fighting, you shut your mouth and you fight. You know, like or you talk some shit and you still stay involved and you don't. Because another saying that came to mind when he said that was the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Because 100%, you know, you hear that constant chirp and you're going to do something about it. But I think that comes down to the coaches. You know, if my fighter's in there, they're scrapping. I'm telling them, yo, you stay focused. You stay doing this stuff. You fight however you need to fight. But I'm going to be the one that's saying, yo, watch that fence grab. I'm going to go up and talk to the ref after that. And I think that's the job of the coach, to be that squeaky wheel, seeing the outside, getting the favored back to your fighter so that your fighter can stay locked in and focused and doesn't have to maybe worry about this stuff, but doesn't have to stress about that stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, understood. Listen, man, at the end of the day, big win for Tim Elliott. You know what I mean? He's a killer, bro. You cannot underestimate the man. He is awkward. He is flashy. He is all of those things, and he's a true veteran in through and through. So, AJ, last couple things. Jalen Turner, let me just ask you quickly. Is there a scarier man at lightweight with the frame of, 6'3" or whatever the case may be? He's cracking you from across the ring. When he hits you, you fall. Nobody beats up Jamie Mullarkey like that, and he just beat the brakes off of him. Valiant effort, but is there a scarier man? What is the man's potential?
Man, is there a scarier man? I don't think so. It's going to be hard-pressed to find one, especially if you go back and watch how stiff that knee was to Jamie Mullarkey's torso. Nonetheless, the hands that he was eating, but that stiff and then the kick, bro, those will put down a horse. Yeah. And as far as the ceiling cap for man, that it's to the roof right there. Like, we're gonna have to see him fight in those top 15, top 10 fighters right now, man.
Absolutely. He's 5-2 in the UFC on a 4-fight win streak, and I think the majority of his wins have come via finish, man. So he is a finisher, man, and I'm surprised he didn't get a 50K bonus, to be honest. Lastly, Ludovit Klein finally gets a big win. He moves to 2-2 in the UFC. His first win since his UFC debut back in 2020, man. This was much needed. He said he wanted to take the fight on short notice because he wouldn't have to think about and agonize over his opponent. Now, that made me wonder. I'm like, oh, is he one of those dudes falling victim to the mental game of it? Like, we know physically he is a specimen. He is talented. He's fast. He's quick. He's got hands. He's Mr. Highlight for a reason. But I mean, listen, obviously 2-2 in the UFC, that hasn't really proved to be the case. So what did you just, I think this is one of the ones you weren't able to catch this one, right?
No. Yeah. I wasn't able to catch this one. I missed this one.
So ultimately, I would just say this. Ludovit Klein, beautiful showing. He got a big win over Devontae Smith, who looked a little flat, looked a little off. I'm not going to lie. But then that could have been because Ludovit Klein was doing so well. At the end of the day, I will just say, folks, keep an eye out on Ludovit Klein. He is no one to be messed with. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that when he first came onto the UFC scene, I was hyping him up. AJ was hyping him up. And on this program, we have long made him a sleeper on our program and basically said, like, this dude could be the future of the division. We will see. With that being said, AJ, that is basically every single fight except for the Dustin Jacoby fight. Big win. He didn't use his kicks, hurt his leg and foot, but he got a big win over Mikhail Alexichuk. That's the all the good stuff, man. Let's move on to the main card, brother. Let's talk about some big fights. You feel me? But first, folks, drop a like, subscribe. You know what time it is. All right, AJ, let's get it.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, brother, we're going to start off with a fight that was pretty definitive. It was pretty quick. Greg Hardy, he fought out his UFC fight contract, man. This was the last fight on his contract, and he gets smashed in devastating fashion by Serghei Spivac. Now, you picked for Greg Hardy, and the case that you made, more or less, was, well, if he touches Spivac, it's basically going to be over. And we even saw that, bro, with the leg kicks, right? He threw a couple leg kicks, and I was like, oh, no, this could not be good. The moment Spivac got into the moment he got it to the ground, it took him like 3 takedowns to like keep him there. But the moment he got him to the ground, you knew it was over. It was like, all right, man, this is Spivac's game. This is Spivac's world. He hands Greg Hardy his 3rd TKO loss in a row. He lost to Marcin Tybura, ground and pound round 2. Tai Tuivasa, he got flatlined with a counter hook and some ground and pound. And then another first round to Serghei Spivac. This appears to be the end of the days of Greg Hardy. But I wanted to ask you, my man, let's talk about Serghei Spivac. Greg Hardy's getting all of the love here, but Serghei Spivac, this is quietly his 4th win in his last 5 outings. His only loss was to Tom Aspinall. Specimen, hybrid heavyweight. We say it every time. One of my favorite fighters. So his only losses in the UFC have come by Walt Harris, Marcin Tybura, and Tom Aspinall, brother. Serghei Spivac, he should be entering this top 15 in the relative future because a lot of these old dogs in the UFC's heavyweight division, they're probably going to get the out here pretty soon, my man. So what do you think about Serghei Spivac? Obvious domination of Greg Hardy. Give me your take.
Obvious domination by Greg Hardy. And really in this fight, what kind of popped out to me most is the different levels that are in the heavyweight division, man. It's so like, you know, you got your top, you got your elite people that are up here, you know, your Francis Ngannou, your Stipe's, all those fighters that are up here that are top upper echelon. And then you kind of skip a level, and then you go down to the middle grade, which I feel like that's the Spivacs, you know, the who else? Augusto Sky or Marcin Tybura, or those like kind of they're there, but can they compete with that super upper echelon? It's a little harder of a fight for them. And then you got the deep, you know, the Carlos Philippe's, the Greg Hardy, and they're still good fighters, great fighters for sure. But Serghei Spivac is just that level above to where it's like against, let's say, a Curtis Blades. How's he gonna fare? It's going to be a real rough fight, especially because he's good on the ground, but Curtis is just so much better. But then you go against somebody like Sergey Pavlovich, and Spivac's going to do pretty good, pretty decent. We'll see. But it's what missing for me is there's still some intangible that Serghei Spivac is missing to get him to that next level. And what do you think? What do you think could get him up there to that next level, Derick?
He needs more finishes. He needs more devastating finishes, I think, because in his last 5 wins, he got a majority decision versus Carlos Felipe. Ground and pound win versus Jared Vanderaa. This was actually his first KO win since that Jared Vanderaa fight. Decision win against Oleinik, and then he got this finish right here over Greg Hardy. He has a lot of finishes, don't get me wrong, but he needs to get him more done in the big show, in the UFC. It needs to be devastating finishes. It can't be these drag him out, I'm just going to hold you on the ground, because that's his thing. His coach, oh man, I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but he's basically saying make ground and pound great again. Like, you know what I mean? Come on, let's get it, brother. You feel me? And I agree, man. Make it great again. Like, it's devastating things when you see. That's the Khabib style right there, but this is the heavyweight version, my man. I don't know. I do agree with you. He's missing a little something. He doesn't talk. He doesn't call anybody out. So it's another factor of the game that he's kind of slacking on. But when it comes to being in the ring, he's 5-3 in the UFC, man. He is a problem for anybody that they put in front of him, except the real speedy guys. You know what I mean? The speedy heavyweights with real power, that gives him a little bit of issue. But this was a big win by Serghei Spivac, man, and I'm looking forward to see where he goes next. All right, AJ. Kevin Holland, right? He got the win over Alex Oliveira. But this was the photo of the night right here, my man. All good. We're all good over here. For folks who are just listening, this is Kevin Holland. Alex Oliveira, he doesn't really have a rear naked choke because you could see in the photo, he's underneath the arm of Kevin Holland, so he doesn't really have anything set up there. But Kevin Holland he's poised, you know, he's composed, he's chilling. And I was just surprised because the way that Alex Oliveira took Kevin Holland's back, I was like, this is what I was talking about right here. That grappling, that is just like, that's just a step ahead. However, Kevin Holland, the moment it got back onto the feet and he was able to land that monster of a right hand that he has, it was all downhill from there. Kevin Holland is a scary man when he starts fighting downhill on anybody. This is Alex Oliveira's fourth loss in a row, AJ. We talked about this earlier. Kevin Holland, he looked like a much larger man with a big reach at welterweight, but you did make a good point. Noticeably slower at welterweight. You know what I mean? Alex Oliveira was able to get in on some shots that you're like, yo, people don't normally hit Kevin Holland like that. Like, what's happening here? Give me your assessment on the fight. How big in the career of Kevin Holland of a win is this?
Oh, this is a huge win, man. This is a huge win for Kevin Holland. One of the ones that he needed, especially when he got that new coat of paint. He's dropping down to 170. And it was weird because on the podcast or on the commentary, they were saying that he was going too fast. He was starting too fast. He was just going to burn out. He was like all this stuff. And I was in there thinking, I was like, he looks slow. Like he looks like he's kind of taking his time. And even the first note I wrote down, it looked like Holland wanted to move around a little bit, see how he was going to feel at 170. And that's what kind of let Alex Oliveira get his opportunities, man, get the takedowns. There was a couple of pretty nice, strikes that Alex Oliveira was landing. But the second round started, then I feel like Holland kind of focused up and said, all right, it's time to go. Like, it's time to put this work to this dude and get this thing done. And it was a big difference between the first round, where it was a very up and down fight, very entertaining. Like you said, Alex Oliveira had the back, didn't really have a choke, but had the back, had his moments to where everybody thought Alex Oliveira was going to be like, oh shit, this is going to be a scrap of the night. And the next thing you know, Holland steps up like I expected to be, with that quickness, with that right hand, drops Alex Oliveira, TKO round 2. Big win and almost a bigger loss for Alex Oliveira. You saw it in his eyes when he was about to put the hands up, and it was a real rough loss. You hate to see it because I do think Oliveira is that almost getting into that quintessential gatekeeper position. But, you got to go up against the young dogs and Kevin Holland. It was a big win for him. What do you think? What was your big takeaways?
My big takeaway is that Kevin Holland, brother, at the end of the day, like when he wants to put it on somebody in terms of power, he's almost unmatched. Like the precision, the length, the power, he's almost unmatched there. But it is a little focus thing. It is a little like, all right, we got to lock in here. Like the moment he locked in at the end of that first round, coming to the second, that was a different fighter. That wasn't the same fighter. And what was interesting to me is when you look at the stats, man, it didn't feel this way because I thought this would have been a fight of the night type situation if it would have went 3 rounds. But Kevin Holland outstruck Oliveira 50-21. And, like, once again, I'm like, is that what I watched? Like, because it felt like Oliveira was piecing him up. He was making him miss, doing all that. But Kevin Holland, brother, it's just different. And you could see it. When he was hitting Oliveira, he was snapping his head back. Like, his head was going. It was flying back. So, I mean, there's not much to say for Kevin Holland here. We need to see. We know how talented he is. This dude was fighting ranked, legit dudes at middleweight. This is just welterweight, brother. Let's get it. Arguably, there are better wrestlers here at welterweight than there were at middleweight. You know what I mean? You don't want to catch yourself fighting the Sean Bradys of the world and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, but then he's used to being bigger. He's used to the strength of the bigger wrestlers. So I'm excited to see where he is at 170 because he's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to be the taller guy walking in about 192, 190, whatever it is, fighting the dudes that kind of balloon up. Who knows how much weight Cowboy Oliveira's cutting. He didn't get into all that, but still you're used to fighting these dudes who are fighting at 200, 210, and you feel the strength of them, and then you drop down to somebody who's feeling the strength of a 170er, and it's a little bit different. So I'm excited to see how he handles the ground game of his future opponents.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It does also take a little steam off of the win knowing that Alex Oliveira is 3-7 in his last 10. So it's like, the losses to Gunnar Nelson, Mike Perry, Nicholas Dalby, Shavkat Rachmanov, Randy Brown, Nico Price, Kevin Holland, wins against Peter Sabota, Max Griffin, and Carlo Pendersoli. So as much as we know and love the Cowboy Oliveira, he's a fun, flashy fighter, I'd have to imagine he's probably getting the boot soon. You know what I mean? Big win by Kevin Holland, but it is what it is, folks. All right, brother. Thug Nasty, my man. At this point, can you deny him? You can't, right? And let's take a look at this number right here, brother. It's tiny to see right here, but ground strikes with 24 seconds left in the fight, 173-6 in favor of Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell. This was pure domination from beginning to end. Edson Barboza did land a big right hand that completely swelled up the eye of Mitchell, like with one shot. But aside from that, we know the kryptonite of Edson Barboza, and this was very similar to what Makwan Amirkhani was able to do to Barboza in the little stretches that he had during that fight. Bryce Mitchell, he just maintained relentless, perfect timing on his entries for the takedowns. It was a clinic, brother, and I feel bad for Edson Barboza because this is 2 back-to-back, Giga Chikadze, then Bryce Mitchell, right? But what can we say about Thug Nasty here, man? We didn't see an Arkansas twister, but we did see absolute domination. What did you think?
Absolute domination. This is a real rough one for Edson Barboza because one, you're losing the Giga fight. All right, you lost to a striker. It's kind of how it goes. This is one of those fights that's just demoralizing, man, because he was really accepting the bottom position. Anytime Bryce Mitchell was on top, Barboza was cool. Like he didn't have that pressure to get up and get going. Like he would get the feet on the hips and slide him off. Go close his guard, accept guard, try to get the ref to kind of step in instead of initiating it himself. But then you leave yourself open. So it's a double-edged sword, whichever you're fighting when you're fighting a guy like Bryce Mitchell. Very impressive. I mean, this dude, not once he enters the cage, sure, he might be a man of God, but this dude fights like he's fighting, back in like the Crusades or whatever the case, because he is dominating, relentless, full control, absolute domination. I'm excited to see who they pair Bryce Mitchell up with in the future, because if it's not a dominating wrestler and they give him a striker, it might be a one-sided fight. But if they give him a wrestler, a grappler, then we'll be able to see some striking come out of him, maybe see some holes exposed. Who knows? But either way, a very dominant win for Bryce Mitchell right here.
Yeah, man, this was his 3rd decision win in a row since landing that twister win against Matt Sales back in 2019. My question to you is, if he continues to win in this fashion of just domination, it wasn't the most exciting thing to watch if you're a casual, right? You're like, why are these dudes laying on top of each other? What's happening here? Do you think that he starts to get the Colby Covington treatment? You know, because his antics are cool. People love the antics of Thug Nasty. But my question is, if you can't land the submission wins, and all your wins, they are devastating, they are dominating, but just a little dry. I mean, do you get the same love that you should be getting, especially if you're a top 10 fighter, top 8, top 5 fighter? I mean, we don't have too many of those that are just these grinder dudes who nobody really wants to watch like that. What do you think?
Isn't it funny how that, no matter how dominating you are, if you're not that exciting, you don't talk some shit, you don't stay and swing and bang, that's you don't get the love. You don't get the love. But Bryce Mitchell said it best, man. Every single fight he's ever had in his life started on the feet. And I think even in the Barboza fight, he was able to do a little bit more on the hands, but he wasn't just resting on his laurels. He was shooting when he did shoot for the takedowns and got the takedowns, he was landing elbows. He's landing big power shots on the ground. So will he get as much heat as, a Colby Covington or close? That's a little closer of a comparison for me. Will he get as much heat as like a blonde Brunson? No, man. I think, that the Brunson's on his own level. I don't think anybody's going to catch as much flack as he does. But I do think Bryce Mitchell, if he doesn't, because he does have some antics, so I think he'll be able to avoid a little bit of that. But it's just, I don't know. We'll see. What do you think?
I think that if he could do a little bit more with his boxing, people are going to love it. He dropped Barboza, rather. Like, he legitimately dropped one of the best strikers in UFC history. So that was a beautiful thing to see. Big question, excuse me. Bryce Mitchell, we already know this dude's a savage. We want to see who he gets matched up with in the future. A lot of the talk was, hey, is Edson Barboza killing his body trying to make 145 pounds? Is that why he didn't have the energy to be able to get back up off the ground? Or, come on, brother, was Bryce Mitchell just a wet blanket? He does that to everybody. So I think it's a little unfair to criticize Barboza for the weight cut, because it's not like he's just getting dominated by everybody. Look at the fight against Shane Burgos, bro. That was a war, and he won the fight. You know what I mean? So I just think that was a little unfair criticism of Edson Barboza, but I was curious to get your take. Do you think the weight cut was impacting his performance in the octagon?
I actually had that question wrote down too. Was it the apparent rough weight cut of Barboza? Because he's cutting a lot of weight right there. I just think it was Thug Nasty from the jump, bro. This is his style of fight. He knew what was going down. Did he get caught? Like you said, ate a big right hand, sold that eye up real nice, but he still stayed true to the game plan. I think that was a very harsh criticism that the judges were putting on Barboza, because I think he looks good at 145. He looked nice. He looks smooth. He looks fast, big for the weight class. So I think it's a good call. He just, met when you're facing a savage that comes out of Arkansas, those boys can scrap. That's how it goes down. And I think this is just Thug Nasty's fight from the jump is all.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Thug Nasty, man, he might not have that chiseled six-pack like Barboza does, but he got that farm strength, bro, and you cannot underestimate farm strength. I will tell you that. All right, brother.
Well, real quick, one other thing, folks. If you didn't see it, there was a big Derick I was watching this one, man. Big prop bets up there. If you went with the decision win, like I'm pretty sure you said decision, you were going for Bryce Mitchell by decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, both of us picked Bryce Mitchell for decision. That was a plus 240 comeback on those pick'em bets. So you better start paying attention, folks. I saw that go out on the screen. I was like, man, that's one of those ones that you got to be listening to, man. Not many people chose that. That's why it's a plus 240. Better pay attention. Right. Go ahead. I just had to add that little bit of steam in there right there for you, Derick.
I appreciate it, brother. And that's right. Let them know, man. Hey, we bring the prop bets for a reason right here, AJ. And listen, man, when it comes down to it, I'm trying to think. Did I have any other big ones right there that was really hitting? I know the Covington one by decision, that was minus 110. That was whack odds on that one. RDA by decision, I think that one could have been decent. I don't know. Pay attention, folks. That's the big point that we have right here. But moving on to this next one, man. Rafael dos Anjos versus Renato Moicano. There is a point where you're a warrior and you're a savage and you will say, I'll die in this cage. And then there's a point where you say, well, hey, I took this fight on like 3 days' notice. Let me live to fight another day. I might have won some fans, but I lost career longevity. I probably got some brain damage pretty bad getting my face beat up over the course of 5 rounds by RDA, a former lightweight champion. AJ, this was concerning to me because no round did Rafael or Renato Moicano, really be like, oh yeah, he took that round. He was really getting it. Like there was really no round where that was the situation right there. So I wanted to add this photo really quickly because I forgot to do it earlier, and boom, there it is. Okay, let me make that smaller. This is the third time that a doctor had to check on Moicano and be like, bro, like, are you okay? Can you see? Folks who are watching, it's a little small, but Moicano's eye is tore up, man. Like, RDA really put it on him, and I think it was the third round or the fourth round where basically RDA had Moicano dead to rights. He had the ground and pound, he was smashing his face in, and for whatever reason, Mark Goddard pulled a Mario Yamasaki and said, let there be violence. I want to see violence. I want to see gore. I want to see blood. Do you agree with this fight lasting 5 rounds? Do you think that Mark Goddard should have stopped it? Or do you think that Moicano is a warrior and he's valiant in his effort of just staying alive? And, I mean, actually putting it on RDA in the 5th round a little bit. What do you think?
Man, I think it was actually really good refereeing by Mark Goddard up until about the 4th round. Yeah. There was a point where he was going, he was checking. He even said, like, I liked what he did at the end of the 5th round where he said, yo, you got 30 seconds, bro. You need to turn this fight around or I'm going to stop it. Yeah. I liked that. It was almost too long coming though, because there was a point where the referee, I think it was the 2nd or the 3rd time the referee went in to check, and you see the tangerine size welt that was underneath Moicano's eye move just ever so slightly. Like he looked up, like the welt, the swelling of it just moved in one big movement, and the doctor goes, he can see. Yeah. Yeah. In my mind, like if I was in there, I'd be like, hell yeah, I can see. Let's fucking go. At the same point, I can only imagine what my mom would be saying and shouting from the, stop this damn fight. So yeah. It's hard because it would be more worth it if they won fight of the night or if they won a bonus or if they won anything like that. Other than that, you lost half your purse, you didn't get a bonus, and you have a fuckload of medical bills coming your way. Yeah, that's I think you throw in the towel and live to fight another day on that one right there, brother.
Yeah, man. And a lot of people are just praising him, saying, oh, he has a new fan in me. And it's like, that's cool, but you have a loss on your record. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you lost your cheddar. You got outstruck 149 to 88. And listen, the thing that bothered me is that Mark Goddard was like, hey, I want to stop the fight because I know that his coaches won't, and I need to save him from himself. And then didn't stop the fight. And I was just like, bro, okay, so like you keep contemplating to just do it. Like no one's gonna be mad at you. Everyone was calling for them to stop the fight in the first place. I think the thing that made it worse is this is a Calvin Kattar-esque fight where in the 5th round, Moicano was still there alive, having a little bit of success against RDA. And I think RDA gassed himself out going for the finish, and Mark Goddard just wouldn't pull him off of him. So it's a to me, this is a lose situation for Moicano. Like he didn't really win anything here. RDA, this was a lose too, because you were supposed to fight Fiziev. Arguably that fight might get rebooked. We just got to see what happens here. I don't know. This is like a watch. This is a domination win for RDA. I love to see it because I picked him to win. I thought that this is basically how he would get it done. I just don't know, man. I just think that even Adrian Yanez, he had said it on Twitter. He was all like, bro, like, save your fighters from being themselves. Like, it's all cool being a warrior and all that, but if you're not going to save yourself, then that's why you have coaches. That's the whole reason why you pay these dudes, so that they can do the right thing for your career longevity. I want to see Moicano around for a long time because he's a dangerous, bad man, but unless you got anything else on that one, man, we could just move on because this was a rough one.
I mean, a good fight. I do think both of their stocks rose, but it was more of a losing situation because I was excited. This reminded me of classic old school RDA. So I was excited. It made me want to see the Fiziev fight. It made me want to see him fight next. And the same thing with Moicano, it made me want to see Moicano's next fight as well. Do I think it should have lasted that long? Nah.
If Islam stepped in instead of Moicano, do you think RDA would have got finished, or do you think that he would have been able to stay alive in that one?
There was I think it was the 2nd round where they were talking about Islam coming in this fight. And I was like, Islam doesn't want this smoke. But then at the same point, like the ground game's a different level. So it made me want to see that fight, man. It really did. And coming off of a short notice, that puts Islam at a disadvantage. So it almost evens the playing field. I mean, evens the playing field's a sad way to say it, but a little shady on my part. But it really is because we'd be able to see something a little different. I think it was a good move by Islam not taking the fight, but it did make me want to see the fight for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. RDA, he becomes the 8th UFC fighter to notch 30-plus fights, brother. So impressive territory for Rafael dos Anjos. All right, brother. This is it, man. This was domination. We actually had predicted. We were like, hey, man, do they hug it out after? No. Colby Covington, he grabs his jock and he says, yeah, I'm going to blow kisses, stick my tongue out, and you can suck one. Brother, this was just rough. I don't like how this rivalry ended. I don't like that Colby Covington was talking crazy on Masvidal's kids and his wife and all that. But was this to be could you be surprised by this? I don't know anybody who was surprised by this aside from emotional bettors and people who just can't stand Colby Covington. So they're like, he's going to lose because he's annoying. And I'm like, that's not a good enough reason why he's going to lose, brother. He does this to everybody. And this is what he did to everybody in his career except for Usman and Damian Maia. I said it in the pre-show. He did it. Let's look at the numbers, brother, because we need to make a point here. I think that one lesson that you need to learn from this, and I hope that you take away from this, because I've done this before in the past too. You cannot bet off of emotion. You cannot pick a victor off of emotion. You cannot look at a matchup and say, all right, one dude's skill set is superior, but he's annoying, so he loses. That's not how it works. So when we look at the takedown attempts, Colby Covington notched 6 takedown attempts on Jorge Masvidal, on 6 landed takedowns on 15 attempts right there, man. So he, it was a 40% takedown rate at that clip. But at the end of the day, my man, Masvidal, it's just like round 1, yeah, it's going to be tough to get that takedown. Round 2, it's going to be a little tough. Round 3, oh, look at how easy it's coming. Round 4, oh, man, there's no resistance. Round 5, come on, bro, what are we talking about? Masvidal was looking tired around rounds 2 or 3, but he did clip Colby in round 3 or something like that, where he got that beautiful, I think it was like a left hook on the chin, dropped him for a split second. But what do wrestlers always resort to when they're hurt? Instinctually, you find a leg. Yeah, you sniffing a crotch, whatever the case may be, but you won the fight and you got $50K on top of it, brother. So talk to me through this, my man. Where do we go with Jorge Masvidal here? We already know Colby Covington is in this weird limbo. You can't beat Usman, and nobody else can beat you. But for Jorge, I mean, brother, he was rated number 6, right? He had that number 6 ranking, but when we look at his record, let's just look at in the last 10 or whatever. 3 losses in a row, 2 to Usman, 1 to Colby. He wins against Nate Diaz, he wins against Askren, he wins against Darren Till, loses to Wonderboy, loses to Mariya. I mean, the last time that he put together a big streak besides the Diaz and the Askren fight was back in 2017. So at this point, where do we go?
Well, first off, Derick, I got to say, it sounds like you're arguing a little or chopping it up with those stubborn Portlandians out there, man, that only make those decisions off of emotion. Like, I hate this fighter, so he's going to lose, man. I remember those debates very, very well, brother. And I'm with you. You can't be doing that. You got to look at it X's and O's. And I'm glad on this channel we both did that. And this was one of those fights where I saw what I was watching. I knew what was going to happen, but I really was still pulling for Masvidal. I wanted the L on this one, but I knew what was going to happen. It's how it goes down. Covington solidifies himself as the second best fighter in the division. Now, where do we go with Masvidal? I think there's 2 clear routes, because does he still have that lore and that allure of one of the baddest men in the world? He still is the BMF technically, so I think you still have that play to go. Is Colby one of the baddest motherfuckers in the game? Yes, but will he get that acclaim? No, not really. It's just not in the cards for him, unfortunately. But I do think if you go Leon Edwards, that's a good fight. They have the 3-piece in the soda. It's an interesting one. There's a play there. There's a line there. I'm with you, Derick. I don't really want to see that fight. I think Leon pieces Masvidal up. Or you go Conor. You do the money fight. You do the red panty night. I think they're either way. Both of them are a stretch. But other than that, who do you want to see Masvidal fight?
Nobody, brother. That's the problem. He has no leverage. He just has no leverage. He's not the BMF anymore. No disrespect, man. We love the personality. We love what Jorge Masvidal stands for. That's what I love. I love that he's a street dude. You know what I'm saying? He came up fighting out there in the backyards, getting after it, man. I love everything he stands for and everything he represents. But as a professional UFC fighter, he have no leverage. He's not the BMF. Usman is the BMF. Come on, brother. Let's be honest. You were beating the brakes off of Colby and off of Masvidal. You the BMF at that point, right? So I think that at this point, he needs to be relegated to fighting the number 15s of the world, the non-ranked of the world. Well, let's see him against Kevin Holland. Let's see what happens in that fight. You know what I mean? I think it is interesting because there is this limbo situation where Masvidal and McGregor are such big stars that they're able to get shots that don't make any sense simply because fans sit their asses down in seats to watch these dudes fight. So this is the key right here. Masvidal just signed a very lucrative new fight contract. Some say that is the most lucrative in UFC history, which is interesting because it didn't really make sense to me. However, it's all going to be popularity fights from here on out. It's not going to be strategical, let's fight for a title. No. It's going to be, what are the biggest banger fights? Let's see him against Nate Diaz again. You know what I mean? Let's see something well, let's get into that line. Let's get him against another really good striker, and let's see some wars happen. I think that's where we're headed with Jorge Masvidal, because clearly wrestling is just a little bit too much, brother. You know what I mean? It's just a little too much at the top of the division. At the number 1, number 2, number 3, it's just a little too much. However, do you see him? Let's look at let me pull up the rankings real fast, bro. So when I'm pulling up the rankings on here for the welterweights, let's see what we got. All right, brother. So welterweight. Okay, we got. Let's look. So could he? Oh damn! See, it's just so tough. They're all so good wrestlers right here, man. Wonderboy Thompson. Could we run that one back? Sure. Neil Magny. I don't know if he wants that smoke with the wrestling there. Sean Brady. I don't know if you want that smoke with the wrestling. Kiesa. I mean, he won. We could run that one back. He beat Kiesa back in like 2013, man. We could run that back. Hamzat. Oh, come on. Let's skip that one. Jeff Neal. How about that? Let's see against a Jeff Neal. Let's see against a Ponzinibbio. Not a Rachmanov. Maybe the Leech. I don't know, brother. You see what I'm saying, though, where it's just tough because it's like, do you want smoke with any of these wrestlers? I'd imagine probably not, my man. So give me your last take on this one, my man. Obviously, Colby is the real deal. We knew this was going to happen. This is no surprise to us here on this program, but this is more it's not about like how good was Colby. No, it was just like, should this matchup, did it make sense aside from the grudge? No, not really. Well, give me a take.
Nah, I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see where Masvidal goes next with the fights, because I do think it's going to be those popularity fights. Yeah. And when you were pointing out all the top 15, isn't it crazy that most, if not all of them, besides like 2, are really grappling heavy, like wrestling dominant? It really is. You start at the bottom, you got a lot of strikers, you got a lot of people that can do things, barring Stephen Thompson. Everyone else there has a really good ground game, and Jeff Neal too. But it's crazy that you have to have that aspect of your game locked down and solid to be these top elite tier athletes, at least in the welterweight division, and even a couple other ones as well. But if you don't have that, who are you going to fight? Because they're just going to keep on getting rolled through, all of them.
Yeah, exactly, man. So one more time, I'm going to pull it up. Not the ideal way to end a rivalry, bro. For to grab your jock and to tell somebody like, bro, like you directing it out, saying, "What's up?" Like to me, man code. It's like if Masvidal said, he's like, if I see that fool on the street, I'm still gonna try to break his jaw. Like I don't care. Like he's like, he out wrestled me tonight, but this is a real beef. And I just think that for Colby Covington, as much of a dominant win, a mauling win as it was, there's a street code and there's a man code, man. And you're gonna always have to look over your shoulder. You know what I'm saying? When you walk around, unless you got security or whatever. Because give me your take on that. I know that you feel me when I'm saying this. So what do you think about that?
Oh, 100%, man. You do that to me anywhere. We fighting. That's just how it is. That's on site. After that, you disrespect. I feel like that should be the code. You disrespect anyone, it should be on site regardless. And don't go crying to the authorities or nothing, because you said what you said and you did what you did. It's how it is. And it's rough, because did Jorge Masvidal have the opportunity to do that to him? Yes. So it only gives Covington more reason to be like, yeah, we fight in the streets. Guess what? I'm going to take you down and I'm going to beat you up again, bro. So it's like, fuck, So I do think there's still street code to this, and I hope there's a little bit of street justice that gets put on, but who knows? I would also like to see them get paid to do it. It's a weird one. I don't think you grab your junk at people unless you're willing to scrap, bro.
Yeah, and what's crazy is even Dana White said, he was like, yeah, bro, there's man code, and clearly either you got it or you don't. And he was kind of throwing some shade at Colby, saying like, you don't do some of the stuff that he's doing, bro. But he's winning, and you can't take that away from him. So that is the main card recap, folks. UFC 272 had a lot of heat behind it. A lot of this was a chalky card. At the end of the day, all the favorites won on the main card. We had 4 upsets, all on the prelims. But if you were rolling with our picks, you went 4-1 on the night, man. Not bad. So, AJ, brother, now it's time to get into a little bit of a rankings review, my man. So here we go. All right. Okay, brother. So today we're going to talk about a little bit of a ranking review, and I thought the person that we needed to talk about is somebody who neither of us have him in our top 15 because deservedly so, he didn't really belong in the top 15, but his performance this Saturday night really stood out to me, and it made me ask some questions right here. So I want to jump into the bantamweight division, the men's bantamweight division, which is a very stacked division, right? It's one of the more stacked divisions in the UFC. But when we're looking at it, let's take a look over. Okay. Here we go, brother. So it looks like I have Adrian Yanez at 15. You got Yanez at 15. The UFC has Rafael dos Anjos at 15, which at this point, man, I think he's just kind of waiting to get knocked off at that point. No disrespect, he is a legend, but let's be real. You know what I mean? He's dropped what? I think he's lost like 3 in a row, something like that. 14, Frankie Edgar. You got Sean O'Malley. I got O'Malley at 13. You got Song Yadong at 13. I got Song Yadong at 12. You got Simone at 12. I got Simone at 11. You got what? Mariya at 11, and then I got Mariya at 10 and Frankie Edgar at 10. So we basically got the same fighters, just a little bit of a shuffle in between the difference between us two. I want to talk about Umar Nurmagomedov, brother. Now, is he top 15 ready? Maybe. Honestly, maybe. He's number 43 in the division right now. He beat Boom Kelleher, who is not a ranked fighter himself. But I wanted to ask, a fight against Adrian Yanez, what do you think of that, my man? Like, can Umar Nurmagomedov edge out a dangerous striker in Adrian Yanez, given that not only does he have the striking chops, the big kicks, all of that, but he also has the grappling capacity to keep this fight on the ground and to mitigate the striking of Yanez? Now, let's not forget, Yanez is a pressure fighter, so he could crowd the kicks of a Umar Nurmagomedov, but that's when the wrestling comes in. What do you think?
Could crowd the kicks, but the crazy thing about Umar is he can kick you in a phone booth, man. Yeah. He has such dexterity in those hips. Those question mark kicks come out of nowhere, and they fly so fast that you don't really see them until they connect. Yeah. The big thing, so to me, in a stand-up match, in a kickboxing match, Adrian Yanez versus Umar Nurmagomedov is a really interesting fight. That's a one I would pay money to see. Now, in an MMA match, I think Umar gets the best of him, man. I think the takedowns are just too much. And you start thinking about the hands and the feet. Things start moving around. Next thing you know, he's in deep on your hips. Yeah. And next thing you know, you're sitting there for 3 rounds just on your back if you don't get finished, that is. So I think Umar gets the best of Yanez on that one, man. And there's a couple of these fighters where Umar has a very good shot, man.
Yeah, and that's my thing, is that it's like, if we can arguably say he can notch a win against Adrian Yanez, well, what does that say against maybe like the Song Yadongs of the world? You know, what does that say against I don't want to say Sean O'Malley, but that's the same situation. The wrestling might just be too much for Sean O'Malley. What about a Rafael dos Anjos? You know what I mean? Like, Anjos got the big crack in his arsenal. He's got the grappling, he's got the jiu-jitsu. But Nurmagomedov, here's my take on this, AJ. I don't want to be the dude who's like, oh, you got the last name Nurmagomedov, you're just going to be a champion, da-da-da. I'm just looking from what I'm seeing. Like, this dude is a killer. Like, he's smashing people. The way that he got rid of Brian Kelleher in such a devastating fashion, it made me say, like, come on, bro. This dude is going to be a reckoning of the division, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I do, man. I think it's going to be a wrecking division. Even looking at the rankings right now, I want to see him fight like a Ricky Simone. Somebody that has a ground game, but also very strong, has good striking, kind of a good mix of a balance in there. Because if he can get one on Simone, that just shows how high level this dude is, man. Going forward, I agree. He's going to be, and it's not just because of the name Nurmagomedov, man. If you've been following the show for a long time, folks, you know I'm a fan of the striking. I much prefer striking over anything. But when you get into these kind of situations, man, that when the top 10, top 15 is basically all heavy wrestlers and has that crazy ground game, you're going up against a Merab Dvalishvili, this dude's going to put you on your ass. Same thing with Ricky Simone, a Song Yadong. There's a couple outliers in there. You got the Rob Fonts, Pedro Munoz. There's a couple strikers in there, but they still have good ground game defenses and attacks. So I do think that Umar Nurmagomedov has a very, very bright future in the division. The question is, what happens when Rob Font, he's so much longer and lengthier than you. He just keeps you at bay with those jabs. His arm is as long as your leg, and you can't really get one in on him. You can't get to those hips. What do you do then? Those are the fights I'm interested to see. But I do think if he's not ready for that top 10, top 5, he's going to be very, very soon.
And that's what's just crazy to me, because he's non-ranked at all right now. So the real question at the end of the day, to finish this discussion off, is would you feel comfortable pulling somebody out of your top 15 to insert Umar Nurmagomedov, or do you think he needs to win another big one? Right now, we could solidify him 15 to 20, but can you solidify him in that top 15 for sure?
It's one of those ones where I think he has the talent to be that top 15, but I don't want to take somebody's spot off of hypotheticals.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah. So I'm with you. I think 15 to 20 right now, solid, easy. Let's get another big one. You get another big one against somebody in that range. All right, now we're talking top 15 for sure. Like they say, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you can negotiate, right? And right now, he needs to just prove it one more time. Let's see it again. You know what I mean? Let's see another one. Because so far, I think it's 2 rear naked chokes in his 2 victories, so 2 finishes. Let's see a knockout. Let's see a little something. Let's see the well-roundedness. But at the end of the day, he is a scary man, and especially with Coach Khabib in his corner. Come on, bro. What are we talking about? All right, brother. Next piece of business right here is the fighter of the night, my man. So we're not going to necessarily just talk about the dude who had the most flashy performance or nothing like that, man. It's the person with the intangibles, the storyline, the thing that is unique to this program and this program only, brother. So let us get into it, man. We're going to be talking fighter of the night. Fighter of the night. Okay, brother, you can go so many different places for fighter of the night right here, my man. You can go the people who had the devastating finish. You can go the person who won the grudge match. You can go the person who just put on clinic from end to end. The person who showed the most vigor and most heart. But if you don't mind, I'd like to just go first on this one, man. And I'm going to make it brief. I'm going to make it quick because I talked about this fighter earlier. And as much as I got love for Jalen Turner, the Tarantula, and how deadly of a fighter he is, I feel almost compelled to give my fighter of the night to Maryna Moroz. I'm compelled on this one, brother. So, folks, once again, Maryna Moroz, she settles her grudge match against Mariya Agapova. She finishes her with an arm triangle in the second round. It was basically, in the second round, it was basically domination. This was a really, really one-sided fight in a grudge match where Agapova was more or less instigating the beef. She was the one who was making this the big deal, saying, I want to punish this bitch. Don't forget, that's what we were talking about on the pre-show. Those are Mariya Agapova's words. Maryna Moroz on the other side, when she came into the weigh-ins, she was repping the Ukrainian colors in her hair, and she looked ready to go. And there was something in that where Agapova was smiling at her, and Moroz was just stank-faced, looking at her like, I'm ready to whoop that ass. There was something there where I was like, okay, Maybe Agapova, that's just how she is. She's smiley. That's how she is on that. But for Moroz, she was locked in. She was dialed in. This was bigger than herself. Honestly, and I don't want to be hyperbolic here, I feel like she was fighting for Ukraine in this fight against Mariya Agapova. Now, is there the distinctions? This is Kazakhstan versus Ukraine. This isn't necessarily Russia versus Ukraine here. Nonetheless, with all of the turmoil in the world happening in the war between Russia and Ukraine, Maryna Moroz is talking about how she's got friends who are going missing. She doesn't know what's happening to her. She has family who she's saying that has the potential to be tracked down and killed, things like that. So you have to imagine, you're going through all of these things. Some people, they'd be like, oh, I have a tummy ache, it hurts, I have an excuse going into my fight. She got real people problems, man. Not first world problems, real people problems. She came in, she dominated Mariya Agapova. She showed her grappling was second to none right there in that division. And I just think that this was an end-to-end, wire-to-wire, pure victory for her and for her people. And listen, the jubilation on her face, I think, spoke volumes, man. So for this is, like I said, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than you. This is bigger than all of us. This was for her country and for her countrymen. And I think that Maryna Moroz really put on a statement. So for that reason, Maryna Moroz, the Iron Lady, not quite Jermaine Durand to me, but the Iron Lady, you are my fighter of the night. AJ, what do you think about that? And who is your fighter of the night?
I almost made her my fighter of the night too, Derick, just because it's when there's something going on in the world that everybody knows about and you put on for your people, there's no better feeling, man. Absolutely. You know, you representing nicely, you doing it well, and you beating the most ass in the division, bro. She looked good out there, and it reinvigorated. If she wasn't fighting for Ukraine, you know, as a nation, she was fighting for the people, and she showed that those people out there are relentless. And I like seeing it. Like you said, Derick, we're not a political show, but there's just that little bit of crossover that makes the storyline so great. And I love the fact that you chose it because it's right there. Like that, like I said, I almost went, but for my fight of the night, Derick, I'm going Thug Nasty. I'm going Bryce Mitchell. I mean, he catches some heat. And it made me think of the time when I lived in Casper, Wyoming, man. These white boys out there, these farm-bred people, they can fight. They got some hands out there, and they got those crazy conspiracy theory thoughts that are just so left-wing that you think, like, what the fuck are you even talking about, bro? Like, All right, cool. I'm with it. You know, this is what you believe. This is how it goes. Cool. Word. And you can scrap. That's what's up. He's a God-fearing man. He there's so many different levels to Bryce Mitchell. But what I liked most about him, besides the X's and O's of the fight game, because he has hands. He was down to sit in the pocket. He's down to get the wrestling going, put you on your back, really beat you up. He's not just gonna hump you to victory. He's actually gonna do some serious damage. But what I liked most was what he did after the fight, man. Bringing, even if in his post-fight interviews, he's always talking about, sure, fighting is what fighting is, but people are going to benefit from me fighting in this cage, man, helping out the kids, helping out, people who actually need it. Because even though Uncle Dana said, keep your money, keep your 45K, I'm going to donate. Bryce Mitchell is even like, I'm going to give something on my own, man. I have to give. He knows he has to give. And I like that about him, man. He knows his purpose in life is bigger than just fighting. And the fact that he's willing to speak up about it, use his platform to benefit people, even if he's saying the crazy, conspiracy theory shit as well. I like the fact that he is actually helping out his community, helping out the people around him. And that's one, honestly, when I meet people that are like that, it makes me want to give more, it makes me want to do better to themselves. And I really like that he's inspiring. And I think that's one of the best outlets that people can do. Cause sure, you can grab the mic, you can talk all kinds of shit, you can gain fans for yourself. But at the end of the day, this is over for you rather quickly. And if you can have an impact as good or as more as Bryce Mitchell does, I think he's going to last a long time in this thing. And I do think that's like a reason why Khabib has made it so long, man, because he's giving, and people are out there and he's consistently giving back to his community, staying true to who he is. And I see that same light in Bryce Mitchell. And that's why I like him, man. I like him as a fighter. For the fighting, for the grilling him to the bone, because he is very, very dangerous out there. You do not want to meet this man if you've ever done him wrong. But I also like that he has a good side, man, that he's giving back to his community, that he stays faithful to his beliefs, whatever those beliefs are. And he's willing to conversate about it. He's just not like a thick-headed redneck. He's actually thinking out there. Sure, he might be a thick-headed redneck, but that thick head has a big brain behind it and a good heart behind it. And that's why Bryce Mitchell is my fighter of the night, man. What you think, Derick?
Well said, brother. That was very well said, and I like every single point that you hit on that. And another thing that made me earn my respect for Bryce Mitchell is that he said, he's like, listen, I'm not going nowhere to fight nobody's war, but if there's a war here in Arkansas, I'm putting my boots in the ground and I am defending Arkansas with all of my life, everything I got to give. So I was like, listen, man, you a real one. Shout out to you. I mean, I've never been to Arkansas, but I would imagine it's probably real, country bumpkin out there. You know what I'm saying? But he loves it and he puts on for it, and you have to respect it, because anybody who's willing to die for theirs is a man that you got to put some respect on, my man. So shout out to Thug Nasty, shout out to Maryna, Moroz. You guys were awesome fighters of the night. And with that being said, man, we move on to a little bit of matchmaking, my man. So with this matchmaking, AJ, I want to go through this one relatively quickly because we're running out of time here. So with the quickness, my man, I'm just going to kind of give short, succinct statements on this one, and I want to start out with Serghei Spivac. So his big win over Greg Hardy made me wonder, are you ready for the top 15? And if he is, I'd like to see him fight Walt Harris. 13-10, won no contest. He's lost 3 in a row. At this point, what I wrote down to it, which is kind of funny, I said Harris has the number 14 next to his name and he's a dangerous striker. This is basically the only reason why this fight is taken. Give him that number 14. Take his number 14. Can he do that? We'll see. If not, I got another really, really fun one. But if not, I want to know, what do you think about that and who do you have?
I like the Walt Harris fight. It's also somewhat in line with who I was going with, because I would want to see Spivac fight Augusto Sakai. Okay. Kind of in that same level. We were talking about the levels before in the fighting of the heavyweights, and I think both Walt Harris, Augusto Sakai, Spivac are all kind of in that realm. I think both would be a very interesting scrap.
Absolutely. And if not, I really like that one because, I mean, that's 12 or number 14. Either one, let's see what happens. But if not, if they're saying for whatever reason you're not ready for the top 15, I said let's go Moldovan versus Moldovan, Alexander Romanov versus Serghei Spivac, brother. Let's get it. 2 monsters of men who nobody wants to get into a grappling contest with. I just think that yeah, brother, I don't know who gets it done. Like, you got to show all your respect to Romanov, but Serghei Spivac, I mean, this is Moldova versus Moldova, brother. This is 2 dangerous men. What do you think about that?
I might be too high on Alexander Romanov. I think he can get that one done, but if Spivac gets the win, that's a huge win, man, against a dude who has all the steam going for him. Absolutely. I like that fight too.
Right on, man. All right, Kevin Holland. He was ranked number 14 in middleweight. So how long can you keep him out of the rankings at welterweight? Once again, we got a lot of wrestlers, so he's going to have to prove himself. So for that reason, I actually gave him somebody outside of the top 15 that I think would be a real challenge, much more challenging than Alex Oliveira. Not to be disrespectful. But I say number 26 ranked, Alex the Great White Moroz, brother. This is a dude who's got big, winding, loopy punches, but the other key about him is that he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's able to take down just anybody who he wants, my man. And he could bang with the best of them. What do you think about that?
I like that. I like that fight a lot. I went with D-Rod. There was some heat there. It's a good striking battle. I want to see how he handles himself against the fast hands of somebody else. But Morono's got some power behind him, and you get cracked with one of those big Morono shots, and then he takes you down. It'd be interesting to see how Holland handles the ground game of that. I kind of like the Morono fight a little bit better, to be honest with you.
But I like the D-Rod fight too, because he said, hey, I took out one cowboy. Who's to say I shouldn't take out the next one? Then he said, actually, I take it back because last time I called out Cowboy Cerrone, Daniel Rodriguez came in my DMs talking about, hey, don't call out my OG like that, man. If you want to fight somebody, come fight me. So he was all like, well, shit, then I guess I got to fight the student before the master. But if I beat the student, do I really need to fight the master? You know what I'm saying? So either one of those would be fun. There's a little more heat behind the D-Rod fight. But I think Alex Moroz is just one of those humble dudes who's going to come up. And it's a Texas versus Texas fight because this is Fortis MMA versus, I don't remember where exactly he represents in Texas. But he does fight over there with Krubab Perez right there out of 4 Ounce Fight Club or something like that, man. So shout out. All right, Bryce Mitchell. We're already talking about who should he fight next, man. Who's he ready for? I say the winner of number 7th ranked Arnold Allen versus number 8 in the lightweight division, Dan Hooker. This is Dan Hooker moving down to featherweight, remember? So Allen is 8-0 in the UFC. You know, he's known for his technical striking and his grappling chops. Hooker's a veteran, known for the legit striking, and he's a newfound threat in that 145-pound division. So what do you think about that?
Man, Hooker's going to be long in this division. That's going to be very interesting to see. I like that. I went with the Yair Rodriguez or Josh Emmett just because I like the striking of Yair to give us a different look, you know. But if Bryce Mitchell gets on those hips, some could argue it's not over, but it's pretty much over. And Josh Emmett has really good wrestling, so we get to see the other side of that coin. I kind of want to see Dan Hooker, man. That's kind of a very interesting fight for me. When you said that, I like that fight probably the most.
I think I actually really like what you said though. Who did you say? Not Yair Rodriguez. Not Yair.
Josh Emmett.
Josh Emmett. I would like to see that one. Now that got me thinking now. I'm like, I don't know if he's matched up or not, but I do know that would be a very good fight right there. So
yeah, he's not. That's why I chose it. I was looking.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. So Thug Nasty, man. I mean, listen, he's got his work cut out for him. RDA, brother, do we rebook the Fiziev fight or do we give him Michael Chandler? Your choice.
I think both are good fights. I really, with how crisp and precise the striking and the head movement was of RDA, I wanted to see the Fiziev fight. That's what it made me really think. But also maybe give him Ferguson. What do you think? RDA Ferguson?
I think he beats the brakes off of Tony Ferguson, brother. I'm sorry. I think it's too late in El Cucui's career, my man, to give a primed up RDA right now. This is the last stretch on his career where he's coming. Get all or nothing here. I think Ferguson, I don't know if that would be the fight to make. Give me the Fiziev fight before giving me the Ferguson fight, just because, honestly, RDA was getting pieced up at the end of that fight a little bit by Moicano, my man. If Fiziev cracks you, I don't know if you're getting back up from that. So that would be a fun fight. But let me just quickly, do you think that he would fare well against Michael Chandler?
I don't know. That's why I kind of didn't want the Michael Chandler fight, man. He might get beat up. And Chandler, the thing is, though, Chandler's there to be hit. Yeah. He will sit and take those pictures where RDA can crack him, but Chandler just has some amazing power as well as the ground game. He's a tenacious fighter, man. He might be a little much.
Yeah. No, I got you. Colby Covington, brother. He calls out a man in a lower weight class. He calls out Dustin Poirier, my man, and lots of disrespect. So I honestly wrote, I said Dustin Poirier ? And then I said, what's next for Colby? Because at this point, you've beaten everybody. You can't beat Usman. Dana says if he runs through the welterweight division again, you have no choice but to give him a shot at Usman if Usman still holds the belt. Where do we go?
I think if Covington and Poirier are going to fight, it's going to be in the streets, man. Poirier might look like a family-friendly guy, you know, all that. He maintains cool. But from all the statements that everybody's saying, this dude is real, man. He will fight Covington for free, which I'd almost rather prefer. I think so. Covington has solidified himself as the second best fighter in the division after Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
I think you give him Leon. I think Leon has to fight up in there. If we can see where that goes, and then we maybe get, the rematch with Usman versus Leon. I don't know if I want to see another Usman versus Covington, at least right now. Maybe a couple fights in, we'll see. That's just it's a hard one because they're so up there that you don't just want to throw a lamb to the slaughter and throw in like a number 5 or something.
Yeah.
You do need to put somebody who can fight really well against Covington. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if I'm mistaken, but I think Leon gets the next title shot against Usman. I'm pretty sure that's what they're trying to line up right now. Because there's nobody left. Who else is going to fight for it, So I think Leon gets the title shot. Leon's like, I'm not fighting anybody else until you give me the title. Like, I'm tired. I'm on like a 10-fight win streak. Like, what are we talking about here? So, honestly, I think this one, I think it's fair to say, let's play it by ear. Let's just see what happens. Because he's in a weird spot in the division right now, my man. And there's not a lot of things that would benefit him. He wouldn't benefit fighting number 4, number 5, number 3. You only benefit either going down a weight class or holding out, beating everybody, and hoping Usman retires or moves up a weight class, and then you can get the belt. So we'll see what happens. But that is your matchmaking, folks, on the night. And then last thing we got is the word on the street. So we're going to make this one relatively quickly because, once again, we are running out of time here. Let me see how much time we got. We got about 7 minutes on the board, my man. So I wanted to say heavyweight boxing champion Tyson Fury. He holds the WBC and the Ring Magazine champion. Says he will retire after the Dillian White bout. That's going to be a fun fight. He's still eyeing a special fight with Francis Ngannou. So the only reason that I'm putting this out there, AJ, is because what are the likelihood? Francis, he's going through the knee surgery right now. You know what I mean? He is the champion. He is the reigning baddest man on the planet. Is there still hope that he just says, fuck it, man, I'm out. I'm going to go box Tyson Fury, make millions of dollars, and then I'm going to go live peacefully for the rest of my days? Would it be a shame because of how special of a specimen he is? Or just what are your overall sentiment on the situation?
I definitely think there's a good shot it can happen. Like, there's a real good shot, after you sit out for, 3 to 6 months for that knee. You don't want to get kicked in the knee again. You don't want to have to deal with the wrestling. And, you start working on your hands a little bit more. You think you have more power than this guy. Although Tyson Fury's been boxing for so long, you're not good. There's so much of a skill disparity. I want Francis Ngannou. I want Ngannou to get paid. That's the biggest thing. I want Ngannou to get paid. I think it's a good fight. Like it wouldn't be a good fight in the terms of the X's and O's, but it would be a good fight to see a crossover, to kind of see how they've been going. Because you still got the big belly of the Gypsy King. You get pieced up by a dude who looks, all respect due, because he has the same, even knows he has the same kind of body of that big dude, that big kind of fatter guy against an absolute specimen. Everybody thinks a specimen is going to win. This is another David versus Goliath, even though they're both arguably, the Gypsy King weighs more than Ngannou, but still, it's one of those illusional fights where you think the guy that has a six-pack is gonna kick some ass. Who knows? I do want to see him get paid. I don't necessarily know if it's a good move, though.
Let's not forget Tyson Fury is about 6'9", monster of a man right there. You know what I'm saying? So it should be an interesting one either way. And I think the last thing that we need to conclude on this one, and I want to keep this short and succinct, brother. # free Cain. Cain Velasquez, brother. Near and dear to all of us who have grown up watching the UFC, who have watched MMA. I don't want to get into it too much, my man, but I just want to know the sentiment of this show is with saying, we're backing Cain Velasquez and what he did. So the story is thus far that a close relative, supposedly Cain Velasquez's daughter, was being sexually abused by somebody who was at a daycare, who was at this person who was running a daycare was this other family member of that person, had sexually abused this child over 100 times. How did they get that number? I'm not exactly sure, but the point remains. Cain Velasquez says, well, this dude is not going to go to jail. He's only going to get an ankle monitor, and he's going to go, be on his probation or whatever for this. So that's not enough. And I agree. That's absolutely not enough, man. That is one of the most horrendous things that you can do on the face of this earth. Now, he decided, I'm going to take justice into my own hands, which is, you have your own kind of quarrels with that in and of itself. But he says, I'm going to try to run this dude off the road, and I'm going to shoot at this dude from my car into his car. Now, the problem with that is that he didn't hit the dude. He hit the dude's stepdad, right? Shot him in the arm or something. He didn't do what he wanted to do, and now he's potentially facing up to 20 years to life in prison for what he has done. Joe Rogan has popularly said, I wish instead of shooting at him, he would have rammed him off the road, pulled him out the car, and beat him to death with his fists. Because we all know he is capable of that. This one man was the heavyweight champion of the world, one of the baddest to do it in the world. Our sentiment on this program, AJ, is I agree with Joe Rogan. And I say that if you were going to do it, you should have done it a little more strategic, right? You know, because you did put other people's lives at danger, at risk. And just because you're associated with a scumbag piece of shit does not necessarily make you the same level of scumbag piece of shit. So at the end of the day, AJ, give me your sentiment on this. Obviously, I hope Cain Velasquez gets out of this jam somehow, some way, because if that was me, if that was you, neither of us have children, right? But I would imagine even if someone did something nasty to your dog, you'd be like, brother, this is an unforgivable thing, and, we all say we would do it, but Cain actually did it. He had the balls to actually do it. If you see his mugshot, he looks content. He looks like, yeah, I did that. What the fuck you gonna do about it? So give me your take, brother.
Yeah, I even think dragging him out of his car and beating him to death with your hands is too good for that scumbag. It's one of those things, man. It lights a fire in you. If you've known anybody that's gone through this is one of those things that is just absolutely unforgivable. I know for sure somebody touches Sasha Barry, even you pet her wrong. I even think like, man, get your hands off my dog. You do some foul shit, bro. Like I know for a fact. There's a lot of family members who would do the exact same, and it's one of those things that's death is too good for that scumbag. And I wish there would have been some other way, like old school death by 1,000 cuts, like I want that guy to suffer. So I only hope Cain gets out fast in a hurry and the scumbag gets what he deserves, man. And then goes out Gaddafi style, just, the worst way possible. And I never wish I never wish bad on anybody. But I do wish you get what you deserve in life, and this scumbag deserves a lot worse.
Absolutely, man. So I think we can kind of leave it at that. Free Cain Velasquez, if you don't know who we're talking about, folks. But this is one of those things, man, where you got to realize the demographic of people that you're dealing with who fight in the UFC or who are interested in combat sports. These are not your average folk. These are dudes who got a little chip on their shoulder, who are a little rough around the edges, you know what I'm saying? So you're dealing with people who already have a propensity to potentially go to prison over some bullshit. You do something disgusting, despicable like this, what do you expect? That's my last question here. What did you expect to happen? Do you think Cain Velasquez would be like, oh, it's all good. I hope the justice system serves him right. Like, is that what you expected?
Right? I couldn't. Well, one, I can't fathom what was going through that guy's mind. Obviously, it's a sickness. There's a whole debate whether you can go one way or the other with that thing. I say castration is the way to go because that's if 100 times you're telling me 100 times plus, who else is he doing that to? Mm-hmm. Whose other kids is this? It's rough, man.
So we don't go over the edge on this one, folks. We're going to leave it at that one. Hey, I apologize that we had to end on a rough note like this, but I did think it was important to talk about, to shine light on this, that it's not just, look at this bad man, Cain Velasquez. Look at what, no. You would have did the same thing. I would have did the same thing. If you didn't,
you should do the same thing.
You should be the hammer of justice in this situation if the justice system is not willing to do it for you. At the end of the day, folks, that was your UFC 272 coverage, folks. I hope you enjoyed the program. The post show will be back for the next, UFC Vegas 50, brother. We already hit the 50 spot right there. Next week, we get Thiago Santos Marreta versus Magomed Ankalaev, one of my favorites to do it. I said he's going to be the future champion of the light heavyweight division. Don't believe me, folks. Just watch. We'll see what happens. But, AJ, you got any last words for the people before we get out of here?
No, man, I'm excited for next week. You already know, folks. Share the show. Go get yourself some merch. I don't think Derick mentioned this episode, but we still got some fire merch headed up for you. Go check it out. Share it with your friends. Hit us up in the comments. I see those comments. Let us know who your favorite fighter is and why they're your favorite fighter. We get a lot of those, especially from the, across the pond and all those other places. But it's amazing to be here with you this week. We'll see you next week. It's going to be a great fight.
Absolutely, folks. Use code BWP10 for 10% off all purchases at checkout. You know what time it is. Get you some swag. Come on, bro. Until next time, folks. Peace.